What is up, Bleacher Report? Jesse from Last Second Sports coming at you with another 49ers Daily, and we are inching closer to the NFL draft, and the coverage does not stop until we reach the day. I cannot wait. The 49ers have so many picks in this draft and so many opportunities to really shape the future of their organization. And this process has gotten me excited about so many prospects. And I cannot wait to share with you the three prospects that I like the most with each one of their picks. I do think the 49ers are going to trade at some point during this draft. They're going to trade up, they're going to trade down. Who knows how many picks they actually make, but I can't predict that. What I can do is look at the picks they have currently and give three prospects who I truly believe will be there or have a really good chance to be there when the 49ers make that pick, and guys that fit the system. What do I like about them? Where do they need to improve? So I've got a lot of prospects here. What, 3 times 11? What are we talking? 36 prospects I'm about to throw your way. So a lot of guys. Actually, I think it's 33 because for the last two picks, I did three only because we're a few picks apart, right? So I'm going to throw a lot of names at you. I'm going to tell you why I like these players. As always, I'm not here for a long time, but I am here for a good time. So let's jump right into it. All right, pick 11. This is the only pick that I'm going to give you four guys. And the reason that I'm going to do that is I just can't make up my mind who I like the most. I like four guys right at this spot. All the other spots, it was really easy for me to go through and just narrow it down to three. Not at pick 11. Way too much homework has gone into these guys. And there is some good versatility out of this group. Plus, I do believe there's a chance that one of the four guys that I give you is not going to be there. So I had to give you four. Either way, I'm going to start, and this is in no particular order. None of these are in a particular order. It's just guys that I like at this spot. First guy I'm going to give you is on the thumbnail, Walter Nolan. It's really interesting to me. Walter Nolan, very early on in this prospect, was high on draft boards. It's like, man, hopefully the 49ers can get him at 11. If he's there, those were the conversations that we were having. But over the last month, and I don't know that this is happening actually in the NFL, but at least from a fan perspective, if you go through mocks, shoot, there's sometimes he makes it all the way to 43 to the 49ers. It's really kind of crazy. I kind of attribute this to draft fatigue. He's a prospect that a lot of people liked early, and then as time wears on, you watch so many guys and you kind of forget about some of the early guys that you liked, and you start to think maybe this guy's better. And we've gotten to a point where Derek Harmon in a lot of people's eyes is better than Walter Nolan. I'm a big Oregon Duck fan. I do not believe that at all. I would be disappointed if Harmon was the pick at 11. I would not be disappointed if Walter Nolan was the pick. And I remember watching him very early on in this process, and I thought a lot of different things. First of all, I thought he was the perfect three tech. He was always double teamed. He was in the SEC, but always double teamed. He played against Georgia. Georgia has three interior offensive linemen that are going to possibly go in the top 100 of this draft. That's how good those guys were. They double teamed Walter Nolan every single snap. Every snap, it felt like he was double teamed, and he didn't stop moving. I remember, I think it was like the maybe first and second snap, he was really caught off guard with the double team and kind of moved around pretty easily. But from that point on, he was tough to move. His motor didn't stop. He, even though playing next to some good prospects himself, was the clear best player on that defense. Absolute pleasure watching Walter Nolan. Heard some maturity things with him. Sounds like he had some really good interviews with teams, but Walter Nolan, young player, raw, even though he's as good as he is and comes across refined. I think there's so much more to his future and his game. I love Walter Nolan. So for me, he's one of the players that I have at pick 11. Will Johnson, corner out of Michigan. I get the feeling that Will Johnson's going to be the pick. I really do. Now, I think out of the guys that I'm going to mention, Will Johnson has the highest likelihood of going in the top 10 and not being there. But if he is there, and there's a good chance that he is, I really think the 49ers are going to pick him. I do. And the reason is maybe they wouldn't go with Walter Nolan or whoever, because you're going to find out as I go through my favorite players at each of these picks. I've got a lot of defensive tackles listed. Now, the 49ers could potentially use 3 defensive tackles, but that also means that you don't have to necessarily get one around 1. As much as I love Walter Nolan, I wouldn't be upset if they went with a corner or an edge rusher or something different, offensive tackle maybe, just because I think that they can stockpile defensive tackles as this draft goes along. So, that being said, I do think Will Johnson, if I had to make a pick right now, I would say that he is going to be the pick. He's got really good size. He actually does remind me of Travarius Ward a little bit. He's a true outside corner, play a little bit everywhere, has, dabbled here or there, but he's a true outside corner. He's an absolute playmaker. He has phenomenal route recognition. The only thing that I would say about him is he's so aggressive, which I think for the most part is a good thing. I'd rather have a player be overly aggressive and ask him to dial it back than to ask him to ramp up the aggressiveness. He's so aggressive that sometimes it can get him out of position, but you're talking about a player who played on a national championship team. He's extremely polished. He's had some injury things as of late, which might allow him to fall to the 49ers. But make no mistakes about it, this is probably the best corner prospect in this draft for an outside corner, at least, and an extremely good prospect. So I do have a feeling Will Johnson's going to be the pick, but we will see if he even makes it to them at 11. Another corner that is actually probably my favorite prospect in the whole draft. It's between him and Walter Nolan. Jahdae Barron, cornerback out of Texas. He's Brian Branch. He's Brian Branch. And for those of you that are not familiar with Brian Branch's game, he was a rookie last year for the Detroit Lions, picked in round 2. Jahdae Barron, the reason that he's probably worthy of pick 11, if it comes down to it, is because he tested way better than Brian Branch, even though they are roughly the same guy as far as their style of play, their versatility, what they bring to a team. Brian Branch was a one-man wrecking crew as a rookie last year on a team that had so many injuries in the Detroit Lions. He's like the one constant that just held things together. Jahdae Barron is very versatile. He's so good, in fact, that this year Texas needed him to play outside corner, and he did at an extremely high level. I would say that's probably number 4 or 5 on my list of preferences of how I would like to use Jahdae Barron if he was drafted. But he's so good, he can do it all. He can play the star role. He can play inside. He can play outside. He can be a safety. He can blitz. All of it. He does it all. And that versatility allows the 49ers to do a ton of different things, especially when you add him to already versatile players in Diamador Lenore and Renardo Green. I love Jahdae Barron. Love, love, love Jahdae Barron. So if he was the pick, I would not be upset. And then the last player I'm going to mention is Mykel Williams, edge out of Georgia. He's young. He's only 20 years old. But when you look at a prototypical 4-3 defensive end, he is exactly that. He's got the ideal size for that position. He's extremely explosive. Also, much like Walter Nolan, does not stop moving. When you look at his production, as far as the numbers and sacks, it may not be where you would want them to be. I could see a scenario where Michael Williams is drafted by the 49ers or whoever he's drafted by. And his rookie year, people are saying, oh, you know what? Not that great of a player. Man, we might have gotten a bust. Not that he's going to be awful, but that he just doesn't live up to some of those expectations. But then in year two, he absolutely breaks out and is a stud, a bona fide pass rusher in this league. I really could see that happening for Michael Williams. So another player that I like at 11. All right. If I've got 30 of these guys to go through, I got to move a little bit quicker. So round number one, obviously pick 11. Super important. I'll probably go a little bit quicker than I did with those guys, but it had to be said. That's the first pick in the draft. I'm very excited about it, as you can tell. All right, pick 43. Three guys that I think could be available. Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle out of Ohio State. What I like about him is he's very athletic. He's got a big frame. He's disruptive in the run game. He's got a high motor. Not the most refined pass rusher, but he is effective there. He is effective there. I love Tyleik Williams. And this is a player that early on I was really behind. I've got two people that I really trust when it comes to breaking down prospects. They weren't high on him early in the process, and that concerned me a little bit. So you probably haven't heard me talk about Tyleik as much as I have some of the other guys, even though I've liked him the whole time. Very recently, my two friends that I trust in this scenario, they've come around on Tyleik Williams, which gives me the confidence again to get after Tyleik Williams as a prospect. I absolutely love him. Ariante Ursary, offensive tackle, Minnesota, is prospect number 2. Tons of starts, 3-year starter, big body, athletic, played in the zone run scheme. So you know that that fits the 49ers or what they want to do. He's very powerful. I mean, as far as a Trent Williams type of athlete, he fits it. He fits it and would be a good replacement for Trent Williams. And with 3 years of starting, I mean, he's a guy that could play right away. He could play right away if he had to. Wouldn't need to sit. Doesn't need a lot of refinement. I think he's just you draft him, you start him, he's good. Now, he may have to sit if he was drafted by the 49ers. That's okay. But if he needed to play, would have zero issue having him play. Third pick or third prospect at pick 43 that I really like is Azariah Thomas, cornerback out of Florida State. Stop me if this sounds familiar. Renardo Green's teammate from last year. He is very versatile from a schematic standpoint. He can play man or zone. He's got great build for an outside corner. Tons of upside. I would say the only knock on Azariah Thomas is that he was only a 1-year starter. But as far as an overall prospect, he might be better than Renardo Green. That doesn't mean he's going to be a better player, but prospect. You just have to let's measure him compared to what Renardo Green was last year coming into this process. I would rank Azariah Thomas above Renardo Green. And I like Renardo Green. Renardo Green's been very effective. I also like the fact that the Rams have kind of unlocked this ability to pair teammates together at a specific unit, and it was very effective for them. 2 Florida State guys on the defensive line. Why not get another Florida State guy who can play corner and played with Renardo Green? I think that would help in his development as well. So Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle, Ariante Ursary, offensive tackle out of Minnesota, and Azariah Thomas, cornerback, Florida State. Those are my 3 prospects I like at pick 43. Pick 75, prospect number 1, Alfred Collins, defensive tackle out of Texas. He's primarily a run defender. He's very powerful. He athletically, size-wise, everything, he's a top 50 prospect. The reason he's probably not going to go top 50 and has a great chance of being there at pick 75 is he's unpolished as a pass rusher. If he was a little bit better as a pass rusher, he would be a top 50 player, no brainer, maybe even a first round pick. But here you are, pick 75. First of all, no prospect is perfect, but this far in the draft, you're going to start having a little bit of chinks in the armor. Alfred Collins, I think, is a very good player. To me, pairing him with the right partner at defensive tackle would be key. You want to go ahead and let's say it was him and Walter Nolan, you're great. You crushed the draft. Defensive tackles taken care of. No issues there. So it's all about where do you pair these guys. Next prospect, Omar Norman Lott, defensive tackle out of Tennessee. Everything I just said about Alfred Collins, also true about Omar Norman Lott, except for he's better in pass rush scenarios than he is as a run defender. He's got a quick first step. He's a gap penetrator, but he can get pushed around a little bit in the run game. So if you could somehow get both of them at pick 75, then you've also got a very good pairing at defensive tackle, but that's not possible. So depending on where the 49ers have gone thus far, who else they see later in the draft, those two are guys that I think that they're going to look at. Like I said, if they've already gone Walter Nolan, then I think Alfred Collins would be the pick. If they are yet to get a defensive tackle at this point, I would probably go Omar Norman Lott, because as you're going to see as I go through this process, I'm going to give you other defensive tackles, but most of them are primarily good run defenders, big body guys. So um, if they have not taken a defensive tackle at this point in the draft, go Omar Norman Lott if they're both available, and then pick one of the other guys that I've got later. And then the last prospect that I'm going to go with here at pick 75 is Jared Wilson, center out of Georgia. Probably the best center in this draft, most upside, anyways. He's a very, very good athlete, fluid movement, very high upside. The only knock on him is that he was a 1-year starter. Even then, he shows to be a refined player. So knowing that he's very refined for a 1-year starter and that the upside is there, he moves well, which is perfect for a 49ers offense. He diagnoses plays well. Jared Wilson, I would love to have at pick 75, future center for the 49ers. All right, let's move on to pick 100. Pick 100, as much as I'm ecstatic about pick 11, the group of three here that I've got at pick 100 might be my favorite group out of the whole draft. I love, love, love this trio right here. Prospect number one, Damian Martinez, running back out of Miami. I first saw Damian Martinez on Oregon State. I'm an Oregon Duck fan, as I mentioned earlier, and I had to watch him carry defender after defender, knowing that Oregon State was going to run the ball, and Oregon still could not stop this man. He is an absolute bulldozer, plays with aggression. He's a good pass blocker. And even though his legs don't stop moving, he will dole out punishment. He's also elusive. So you get him in the open field, you don't know if you're going to get a head and shoulder lowered right into your chest, or if you're just going to get juked out of your shorts. I love Damian Martinez. Very, very good player. The only thing he needs to improve on is being a receiver in the pass game. I think he's an effective receiver, but he's, maybe a 1, 2 max target a game type of guy. That's not his area of strength. That's where he could probably improve. But man, oh man, as a runner, Damian Martinez is phenomenal. You cannot watch him play and not get excited. He brings the juice. All right, prospect number 2, pick 100. Anthony Belton, left tackle, NC State. If you've watched any of my streams, whether here, YouTube, what have you, you will know that Anthony Belton is a prospect I have not shut up about. Everything I said about Ariante Ursary, I think applies to Anthony Belton. He's athletic, big profile, strong, aggressive, perfect Trent Williams replacement. The only difference is I think Ursary is you draft him now, plug and play. Belton can play now. I do think he could play now. I think he would be better off sitting a year, learning from Trent Williams. And if given that option, I think you've got a 10-year starter at left tackle. Love Anthony Belton. There is nothing about his physical ability, his game, anything that I think is a weakness. I just think he's a really good player, but could use a year to possibly sit before you played him. If he had to play, he could. I just would prefer that he was able to sit a year. All right. Prospect number 3 at pick 100 is CJ West, defensive tackle out of Indiana. You look at his size, his weight, not the biggest guy, but he played nose tackle and he's extremely strong. He's a two-gapper. As I said, played nose tackle, great block shedder, and he's effective in both the run and passing game. I don't think he's great at either. He's not elite at either one, but he's effective in both because he's so tough to move, man. Once he gets into the body of an offensive lineman, he's not going anywhere. He is not going anywhere, which in the pass game, we know that allows other guys to maneuver around him. He's going to hold his blocks. If a quarterback wants to escape up the middle, good luck. He's going to be there. And in the run defense, he's going to hold ground and allow others to shoot gaps to make plays. So CJ West, really like him as a prospect. He's my last prospect at pick 100. All right, pick 113. Prospect number 1, Smile Mondin Jr., linebacker out of Georgia. Arguably the best pass defending linebacker in this draft. And if you can get him at pick 113, which I think is a real possibility, that's an absolute steal. He's extremely athletic, and there is no weakness to his game. I don't think he's elite at everything. That's not what I'm saying. I do think he's elite as a pass defender. I do. But he's a solid tackler. He gets downhill solid. He can play side to side a little bit. He does everything well. I don't think there's a true weakness to his game. The one thing he's elite at is pass defense. And I think that would be great for the 49ers. All right. Prospect number 2 at pick 113, Dylan Sampson, running back out of Tennessee. One of the smaller guys, I guess, in this draft as a running back. He's not going to overwhelm you with his size, but man, does he play like a big running back. He is not afraid of contact whatsoever. He's a well-rounded athlete. His production took a little bit of a dip this year in Tennessee, but very, very good player. Dylan Sampson, much like Damian Martinez, a lot of fun to watch. I like Damian Martinez more, but not that much more. I mean, pick 100 versus pick 113, where there's not a big separator here as far as what I think of them two. And I think there's a lot of similarities to their game. Although Damian Martinez is physically a little bit bigger to dole out the punishment. All right, prospect number 3, pick 113, safety out of Penn State, Jalen Reed. Jalen Reed, I think, is a good athlete. He's got high IQ, great instincts, solid tackler, and I think he can be a true free safety, which is something the 49ers do not have right now. They don't have a true free safety, and Jalen Reed, I believe, can be that for the 49ers. All right, moving on to pick 138. Prospect number 1 that I like here is Danny Stutzman, linebacker out of Oklahoma. He's extremely athletic, but even though he's athletic, he's not the best in pass defense. And that's because I don't think he's the best at diagnosing plays overall, but he's very effective around the line of scrimmage. You do have Fred Warner. So I brought up Smile Munden Jr. Smile Munden can do everything. He's very good in the pass game. Danny Stutzman isn't as refined. That's why I've got him going potentially 138 to the 49ers versus 113. Athletic, maybe is athletic, but he's just not as refined in diagnosing plays. But he is very, very good around the line of scrimmage, good run defender. So that's why I like Danny Stutzman. Another linebacker that I like here at pick 138 is Teddy Buchanan, linebacker out of California. Also very athletic. This is a must at the linebacker position for me. So you're going to see this across the board when I talk about these guys. A lot of similarities. Extremely athletic, good tackler. Again, in coverage, not as good as Smile Munden Jr. because he is not as fluid of an athlete. So Stutzman, more fluid athlete, doesn't diagnose plays well. Teddy Buchanan, I think, diagnoses plays at a faster rate than Danny Stutzman, but he's not as fluid of an athlete. Very good athlete, but he's a little tight hipped. Little tight hipped. He can run very fast in a straight line, but a little tight hipped. All right, prospect number 3 at pick 138, safety out of Alabama, Malachi Moore. Um, Everything that I said about Jalen Reed for the most part, just almost the same. I think he's a true center fielder, probably a little bit more ball hockey, I would say, than Jalen Reed. I don't know if that's a real descriptive thing that I can use, but ball hockey, I will say. He's got great anticipation, very good athlete. Jalen Reed to me is a very, very good tackler. And so that's the separator for me. I think Jalen Reed in the run game can be more effective. That's why I had him at 113 versus Malachi Moore. But I would be happy with either one, and mainly because I believe they're both true free safeties. All right, just 9 picks later, pick 147, 3 more prospects. I've got a Johnny Cornelius, offensive tackle out of Oregon. Go Ducks. What I like about Cornelius, first of all, he was not the most highly recruited athlete coming out of high school, but man, has he really carved out a spot as an offensive tackle. And I think that's just because of his mentality. He's extremely aggressive. You talk about a Kyle Shanahan guy, he can get to the next level very, very quickly. But he's not the most refined, right? And at pick 147, again, you're not getting perfect prospects here. He could use a year to sit, but I think he could be your future right tackle if given that year. So, look, I would love to have a Johnny Cornelius, but I think he needs to sit a year to get the most out of what he can be in this league. Prospect number 2, cornerback out of California, Noel Williams. Man, listen, pick 147 to get a player like this, I think is a no-brainer if he's there. 3,300 career snaps he played. He's basically been playing since day one as a freshman. He's taken snaps everywhere. He's taken snaps at nickel, at star, uh, at at safety even. But you look at his build, he's a true outside corner. True outside corner, true outside man corner. The reason he's much further down the list when you look at size, experience, athleticism, everything. I mean, he fits the bill across the board. He's average as a zone defender. And when you look at the 49ers, they do mix in a lot of zone, although strange because they've drafted, I believe, and brought in, I believe, more man type corners than zone corners, but they play a ton of zone. For me, that's his major weakness. That's an area that he has to improve. But man, if you just put him on the outside and say go mono and mono, I trust him in that situation. I love Noel Williams, cornerback out of California. And then prospect number 3 at pick 147. If there is any offensive lineman in this draft that when you watch on film, you would say that is a Kyle Shanahan guy? If Kyle Shanahan could build his perfect interior offensive lineman in a lab, his name would be Luke Kandra, guard out of Cincinnati. He is the perfect Shanahan guy. He meets everything that Shanahan's looking for athletically, from an aggressive standpoint, movement wise, smarts, everything. He does it all. Now, if you're looking to have a guy in a power scheme, Luke Kandra is not your guy, but a zone running scheme, Luke Kandra is the perfect guy. I love Luke Kandra. I hope the 49ers get him, and I could see them being spooked and getting him at pick 138 even, because they have to have him on their roster. So Luke Kandra, I think, will be there at 147, or a good chance to be there. I think he's for sure there at pick 138, though. So 49ers may just take him a little bit early. All right. Pick 160. Prospect number 1. Another Kyle Shanahan type guy, in my opinion. Center out of Texas, Jake Majors. Extremely smart, athletic, a little undersized for a center. He is a little undersized. He moves very well. I think the best thing about him, though, is that he never gets penalties. Almost never is penalized. I think he hasn't had he hasn't given up a sack since 2022, even though he started in 23 and 24 as well. He doesn't get penalized a lot. Just a smart player. I think he could play day one as a center, and he would be very, very good. Prospect number 2, linebacker Jack Kaiser out of Notre Dame. Once again, very good athlete. I think he does everything pretty well. I think he's solid in coverage. He's better in coverage than he is as a run defender. I will say that. But he's a good run defender as well. I would say his knock is he's not a true sideline to sideline guy, and he's not a thumper. But if you want somebody smart, who's athletic, that can do pretty much everything, Jack Kaiser definitely fits that mold. And oh, by the way, was a leader on a defense that was just in the national championship and coached by arguably the best defensive mind in college football right now, head coach at Notre Dame. So I think you're getting a good prospect. Pick 160. I would love to have him there. And then prospect number 3, defensive tackle out of Florida, Cam Jackson. You talk about somebody who's athletic for their size. Somebody this big should not be able to move the way that he does. Very good in run defense, improving as a pass rusher. I could see him being the second defensive tackle that they take at pick 160, and he would pair well with anybody, in my opinion. He's not a perfect prospect by any means. Good run defender. I think he's a very good run defender, but I don't know that he's as elite as some of the guys that I've mentioned earlier. And he's improving as a pass rusher, but you get somebody that size and that athletic, he's worth the flyer at pick 160 if he was there. And I think he probably will be. Cam Jackson, defensive tackle out of Florida. All right, pick 227. Edge out of BYU, Tyler Batty. Tyler Batty, good athlete, solid run defender, but he started a lot of games and he's probably peaked athletically. I don't think you're going to get much more out of him. I don't know that he'll ever be a really good pass rusher, but pick 227 if you can get a rotational guy on the edge, an early down guy, a guy who's smart, plays with good instincts, holds his ground well. Tyler Batty is probably your guy. I mean, I look at Yatir Gross-Matos, and I think Tyler Batty next year could fill that role, and they could easily move on from Yatir Gross-Matos, no problem, and Tyler Batty could be that guy for you. All right, prospect number 2, another edge out of Morgan State, Elijah Williams. Now, pretty much the exact opposite of Tyler Batty. Both good athletes. Both good athletes. I think Elijah Williams is a better athlete. Elijah Williams is a little bit more raw in the sense that He just played at a smaller school, so the competition level isn't there, but he produced at a very, very high level and got after the quarterback like crazy. I think he set their school record at Morgan State with 31 career sacks. I mean, high motor, gets after the quarterback, extremely athletic. But again, it's always tough to gauge these guys because he didn't play against the best competition. Who knows? Who knows what he is? But at 227, you might be getting a very, very good pass rusher in the future. I don't know that he'll ever be a great run defender. Who knows? But I do think he's a decent run defender. I just don't know that he'll ever be great at it. But I do think he's a guy that could be a rotational pass rusher for you. If you could get both Batty and Elijah Williams, I'll take it. All right. Final three. Oh, excuse me. I've got one more here at pick 227. Caleb Rainsaw, cornerback out of Tulane. What I love about him, good athlete, but very, very versatile. He can do it all. He can play nickel, he can play safety, he can play the star role. Um, One thing that you've noticed in talking about corners is I'm either talking about a guy who's purely athletically built to play outside or guys that are very versatile. Caleb Rainsaw fits the versatility side of the house. I think there's a good chance that he's there at 227. I think he's a top 160 prospect. If they took him at 160, I think a lot of people would say it's a reach. I don't necessarily believe that. I think he's just a really, really good player. And I would love to have him as a 49er. All right. Pick 249, 252. I'm combining both of these with three prospects because we're only 3 picks apart. Prospect number 1 that I've got here, Nazir Stackhouse, defensive tackle out of Georgia, big body run defender, true two gapper. He's a rotational guy. He's a guy that you're going to put in the rotation. He's going to play on down 1, possibly down 2, and he's going to allow other guys to eat. I don't know if he'll ever stuff a stat sheet. And he's going to have to fight. We're talking about guys this late in the draft. He'll have to fight for a spot on a roster. But if he makes it, I do think he can be a good rotational guy for you. So Nazir Stackhouse, prospect number 1 that I'm looking at there. Second prospect that I'm looking at, pick 249, 252. Gavin Bartholomew, tight end out of Pittsburgh. Decent production. I think he put up like 250 yards every year in college. Never was spectacular. What I like about him, though, is that he's versatile in where he lines up. He can line up with his hand in the dirt. He can line up as at a slot, detached or attached to the offensive line. He can go a little bit of everywhere. Not the best blocker, but I think he's got a really good build and is a good enough athlete where he can improve as a blocker. And I don't know that he's explosive from the rate that he's just going to get away from guys in the open field, but he knows how to find his spots in zone. And he's, as I said, a good athlete and can get himself open. So Gavin Bartholomew, tight end out of Pittsburgh. And then the last athlete, or excuse me, last prospect that I'm going to name here, who is a very good athlete, is Elijah Badger, wide receiver out of Florida. What I like about him is he's got good size, solid hands, really good yak, but he's unpolished as a route runner. And a lot of times, for somebody as athletic as him, who can move like he can with the ball in his hands, you're kind of shocked at how close defenders seem to be at the catch point. But he's got strong hands. He can go up and get the ball. He finds a way to get open enough, but he does need to be a little bit more refined as a route runner, and that's probably his major weakness. But again, 249, 252, you're talking about guys who are going to fight tooth and nail to make a team, probably spend some time on the practice squad if they do make it, and then eventually work their way up. But listen, we've seen 7th-round draft pick wide receivers who were similar to this eventually make the team and be effective in doing so. So I wouldn't sleep on Elijah Badger. That being said, that is the prospects, 30 of them, 3 at each pick. What do you think? Who are your favorite prospects? Sound off down in the comments section, and I will be back tomorrow with another 49ers Daily, 9 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you tap in. Much love. Peace.